afternoon there, Shirley. How are you?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Okay.
Okay, here's our little ditty.
We are sisters sharing our heart with you.
We're so happy you could join us today.
Yes, and welcome. And we have some special visitors today that we're going to have a great time of sharing. And I want to introduce to you Roxanna Kennedy from Chula Vista?
Chula Vista.
Chula
Yes,
Vista.
Chula Vista Police Department.
Yeah, she is the chief of police of Chula Vista, and she's also the president of Project Compassion, a nonprofit organization that goes into developing countries and brings free clinical help for medical help for people. So I guess we're going to start off here, Shirley.
Yeah,
with
thank you so much for
we have
joining
two,
us.
We have two other friends with us today.
Oh yes, please introduce them.
This
Yes.
is Chief. He is my little French bulldog, and
Aw.
the other one, who's the calm one, is Rocky. He's down here. You can't hardly see him because he matches my jacket.
I
But
love
they'll
it.
probably interrupt us a few times today.
That's
but they're
okay.
just excited that I'm home today. So
No kidding.
So please enjoy having
Yes.
some interruptions at times.
I won't mind at all.
We love these kind of
We
interruptions,
do.
right?
All
Oh my
right.
goodness. Okay, so we are going to start our interview now. We're so excited that you're part of our
Well,
show.
I'm so happy to be a part of this.
So
This is
happy.
important to be able to talk about really what life really is about, helping others.
Yes, yes.
So important. How did you get to know Sandy?
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting Sandy through Project Compassion, and we were just on a trip not that long ago together.
2019.
Yes, we went to Malawi, Africa, and had an opportunity to go set up the medical mission clinics out with a group of young men that we've become extremely fond of in Africa that we consider to be a part of Project Compassion as well. So I got to meet Sandy by being on a mission trip with her and actually seeing her in action as she was able to help others there as well. So it was a very wonderful experience.
Wow.
It
So
was
you go
great.
back a while, like several years ago, right? This was when?
I've known about, well, that was 2019, but I've known about Sandy for a long time because she's been a part of the Project Compassion team. So,
Okay.
and as I was speaking with her, she was telling me she went all the way back to 2000.
Yeah.
I actually started in 2007, and I do find it fascinating how God brings people together.
Isn't
Yes.
it wonderful?
It is.
yes.
It was never. I always had a passion for Africa, but never understood. When I had the opportunity to go to Africa, it just changed my life.
Yeah.
It has been. It has reached me as deep in my soul as you possibly can, and I feel myself longing. With the COVID, not
I
being able to
know.
go for. Now it's 2 summers because we really couldn't plan for this summer. Has been extremely difficult for
Yeah.
Project Compassions, but we're still helping them there.
Yes, yes,
It
yes.
doesn't matter if we're not there.
That's right.
In person, we're there in spirit and we're
Yeah.
helping them.
And we're helping in other ways.
Yes,
absolutely.
that's true.
Yeah.
God has made us all creative in
Yes.
the ways to help.
Certainly.
And you normally go like once a year? Is that
Africa,
typically-
I go usually every year, every
Oh,
summer.
my goodness,
But
how
we
fun.
also do mission trips all over the world. We go to Mexico across the border all the time, as well as, I've been to Madagascar, to Ecuador, to Oaxaca. We've been all over. We've been to Nepal. It's just we work with missionaries throughout the whole world, and so we build relationships with them.
Yes,
Then they kind of
yes.
help set the stage for us, and when we go there, we bring them credibility at the same time as bringing people to them. So people
Yes.
who don't have faith at times find that they have a need to go for the medical clinic, and then the missionaries have an opportunity, as well as Project Compassion team, to talk with them and encourage them and speak about what God has done in our lives. And I have had the pleasure of bringing people to Christ at times
Oh,
through
it's
that
so
opportunity.
wonderful.
So but it's been very hard to not be able.
I know.
I think I renew myself every time I go back to Africa.
Yes, me too.
So not being able to go right now has been difficult. but we are planning for a big one in
I'm excited.
2022.
I can hardly
Big
wait.
trip.
Oh,
I can hardly wait.
we may have to jump in on
I
that.
know.
I encourage everyone to
Yes.
to go to our website, Project Compassion,
Yeah, we'll put that
and
on our
and
show.
look
Yes.
at what we're going to be doing, and you can see some of the gallery of what we've done. And always reach out to me because I love to tell the story of Project Compassion.
Oh, yes, I love that. I love that. Well, I didn't know Roxanne, but I knew of her and heard of her. And so my dear friend Denise Ross, we decided, let's just go 2019. And it was a blast to be with Roxanne and her husband and the whole team. It was an amazing experience to get back, so to speak, in the saddle. I hadn't gone to Malawi for a while, so
Yeah.
it was a wonderful experience. So, okay, Roxanna, can you please explain your role at Project Compassion and what Project Compassion represents to you and what does it represent to mankind?
Well, Project Compassion is a nonprofit organization that is faith-based, although I'd like to point out, we encourage anyone to participate with us, because our hope is that as they come and experience what we do, they'll see, they'll be encouraged to accept
Yes.
Christ into their life. And so for me, what Project Compassion has done, it has changed my life. Because to me, service is everything.
Yes.
And I believe that God, in two ways in my life, He's blessed me in so many ways by putting me in, giving me the opportunity to be a part of Project Compassion. Never expected to be the president of Project Compassion, but you know,
Wow.
sometimes God asks you to do things that you're like, are you sure it's me that you want me to do this? But what we do is, like I mentioned earlier, we work with missionaries throughout the world, and we try to build and establish relationships with them, and we go there and help their communities. So that's really what the important thing is. And it can be very challenging to be able to do that because all the logistics and the passports and
right.
all the travel, the food, and caring concern for each and every person
Yeah.
that goes on these mission trips, as well as the individuals that we interact with, encouraging doctors to be a part of what we're doing, and our nurses and our medical team, but also our helping hands, we call them, because everybody plays an important role in
Yes,
these mission
everyone's
trips.
important.
Yes, so it's been, for me, it helps me in my profession. I work in law enforcement, and we all know right now it's probably the most challenging time in the history of law enforcement.
Yes.
Yes.
Very, very, very challenging. But I'm uplifted by it because I believe that we have an opportunity to shine the
Yes.
light on all the good
Yes.
in law enforcement.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
so, you know, when I'm working in law enforcement, sometimes we see the worst of society, and it
Yeah.
can bear a heavy burden on your soul to continue, like, what is happening in the world. And honestly, I feel that way right now. So when I go to Africa or in any of these mission trips, it re-energizes me and lets me see that the touch on the shoulder, you know, the
Yes.
kind word,
Yes.
even when you don't even
Right.
speak the same language, to see
Exactly.
someone receiving love and attention, and that you care about them, and that you're lifting them up and you pray over them, it renews me. And so it helps me come back when I come to my job and realize that all the things that I do, there's a purpose behind
Yes.
them.
Right.
And God knows why He put me in these spots, to serve others and to help people through the most difficult times of their life, whether it's in another country or whether it's here in San Diego County. So, you know, God knows what your path is, and
Yes.
I know that I have to trust in Him and follow Him, and that's
Yes.
what we've been doing. So, Project Compassion it's a great opportunity for people to start in the ministry realm of service. You can go for a 2-week trip, and it'll get you out of your comfort zone.
It sure will.
100%. I have seen
Guaranteed.
many times, it
Guaranteed,
doesn't
yeah.
matter how much I explain all the details
Yep.
about the trip. It's not luxury, it's service.
Yes.
And service is not easy, but it refreshes and renews your soul, and you help people that, I mean, I can't even explain the experience of what it's like to,
Yeah.
it's an emotional experience to
Yes.
go on a mission trip. And so, if I could ever encourage anyone to have that opportunity, we do small ones, we do short trips, like just weekend ones across the border into Mexico. Those ones are kind of like easier to start, and usually
Right. Yeah.
younger adults will go on those trips. Sometimes families will come as well. And then we kind of build up to having them go to, it's a long journey to get to Africa.
It is.
Usually takes us about 36 hours with
Yeah.
all the
2 days,
layovers.
yep.
And then how long do you usually stay?
We usually stay for 14 to 17 days total.
Okay.
And so we'll start up a mission trip and we'll go to wherever our destination, like for instance, when we go to Malawi, we always go to Lilongwe first, and we serve with E3 Worldwide with Sam and his wife, Mala, and we started off through the ABC Bible College, and now we work with Sam and his group. So we go out into the villages in the long way. Usually it takes about an hour and a half, sometimes
Yeah.
2 hours to get into the villages. We go in
wow.
buses, and here's the thing that I tell people this, and it's a joy for me to watch their faces, because when we drive in on the bus, everyone sees in all these villages as we're driving through, and people will run and kids are waving and they say Mazungus, Mazungus, and they get so excited and they see
Yeah,
us
they
and
do.
they sing and they're dancing, and then people,
Aw.
so we're still traveling and they will walk and they will all come,
Yes.
and you might start off with 20 people at the clinic, and then all of a sudden by the end of the day, I remember one time when we got to an area in Lilongwe, there were 900 people in
Yes.
line. And I want to tell you, this is how God works. I'm like, how are we going to be able to serve this many people? And then it was like, you know how it works. There's always some issue, and
Yeah.
the missionary forgot all of our paperwork, our registration forms, and I'm like, oh my gosh. This is where in law enforcement comes into play, because you have to be able to solve things. So we found school paper and we cut them into little pieces, and we started
remember.
doing registration forms with all these people. And I don't even know how we did it. We saw all
You
those
did.
900
Yeah,
people.
it's amazing.
And that was when I said, if somebody doesn't believe in God, I don't know how else you could be able to do this, because God works in mysterious ways.
He
So
does, and he did.
it is just, I have to tell you, I long for mission work. I long for Africa. And I don't know, if you look around my house, it's like I'm in Africa. Because
Exactly.
it is a part of who I
Perfect.
truly am. I just, it took my heart.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah,
really
it
took my
totally
heart.
stole my heart too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, very nice.
You can tell I can talk.
Oh, I love it.
I love it.
This is an hour show, so we're good.
We're good.
We're talkers too.
Yeah,
so-
we are. We are.
And that's not me snoring, it's the doggy.
Yeah,
So just
that's
a little-
Rocky. He's
Right.
pretty comfortable
He
right
is
now.
very relaxed and wow. Okay, how was it that you got involved with Project Compassion and the role that you play in it?
So, like I said, Africa has always been a thing for me. It's been something well before. I built my home in 2000 and the walls are all painted like villages of Africa, and I'd never even been there. So then in 2007, my daughter was going to graduate, and this opportunity came up to go on a mission trip. And so it was going to be her graduation
Oh,
present.
wow.
Oh,
And so,
wonderful.
I love it.
So we went to Africa, and my daughter was so overwhelmed by it. She wanted to be a veterinarian, but after going to Africa and serving there, my daughter now is an ICU nurse.
Oh, wow.
And she that part of serving in Project Compassion was what really kind
Really
of
did it
encouraged
for
her.
her.
So I always have a nurse to be able to go with me on
There you
mission
go.
trips now, which is
Beautiful.
Love it.
That's perfect.
and so it all just worked in. It just worked in. I met Cindy Bradbury, the founder, and I had originally went with her. And then Cindy moved on in life and moved out of the state. And then another lady, Sandra, took over for Project Compassion, and I was working with her, and they asked me to be on the board. And then what happens? People transition and they move on to other
Yeah,
aspects
right.
in their
Right.
life, and they asked me to become the president of Project Compassion. So I felt so moved by the opportunity to serve in the leadership role and to help move Project Compassion forward. it's also been very challenging for me because I do have a pretty busy
You have a challenging
position,
job, too.
but it is so important to be a part of
Something
a
like
mission work like
Yes.
Project Compassion that I'm still very excited to be involved and do whatever I can.
Oh, that is
That's
wonderful.
so beautiful. I'm so excited to be here today.
I
I'm just
know,
so
I know.
excited.
I even wore my Project Compassion.
I know, I
love
love that
it.
jacket.
So when you do go on a mission trip, you always we get safari shirts or jackets or something for us to wear there to represent Project Compassion, and it's something that I honor, and I encourage Sandy, go on the next trip and maybe you'll get one of these
I gotta
jackets
get
too.
myself, I gotta get myself a jacket.
That's awesome.
So where do you see Project Compassion going from here with COVID? I know you had to kind of shut down. You maybe went into Mexico, but other than that,
Yeah, we actually couldn't even go to Mexico.
Oh, really?
With the COVID right now. And I think we're getting to a point where we're feeling a little more optimistic. Because what happens is, I mean, I don't know if you all remember, but I remember when the state shut down.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I remember when COVID happened. I remember how the streets were empty. And so, in my job, we never stopped. We were 24/7
Right.
continuing to work, and actually had to go into emergency operations as COVID hit with our officers. So we haven't, we needed to stop operations or planning any trips for the time being until the vaccinations got into play. We still don't know what's going to happen from an international standpoint, because you've probably seen in the news that things change on a daily basis.
Yes.
So one day they say this is the way it's going to be, and the next day it's something different. So
Different.
we felt it would be better to hold off and plan for the summer of 2022. And then we'll pick up. We're going to start doing we're looking at October to do maybe a weekend mission trip to Tijuana. And we work with YWAM over there.
Okay,
They have a
yes.
great
Awesome.
facility, and
Yeah, they do.
And
It's beautiful.
Sean and Janet Lambert are amazing, and they help us be able to make. It's actually harder to go to Mexico on a mission trip than it is to any other place because of
Really?
medication and getting them across the border and all those challenges. So, but we have a plan in place, and we're hopeful for October. But I encourage anyone who's interested in Malawi 2022. We have a great celebration that we'll be going to when we go there next summer. One of my sons, who's Malawian and is a doctor there, is going to be getting married. So Project Compassion has been invited to a wedding, and a Malawian wedding. I
oh,
believe
and
you've
it's,
had an
I've
opportunity.
been to one and they are amazing.
And they invite,
them.
the entire community is invited. It's a community celebration, and it's a long process of being, engaged, and it has to be approved through the whole
Yeah.
church, through the community. And so our son Stanley will be getting married, and we'll be very excited to be there and share that with our Project Compassion team.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Very
For sure, I gotta save up my pennies so I can make it. For sure. Shirley?
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Please share how you became chief of police. How has this been a challenge in these times? And thank you for your service.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
So
Very nice.
appreciated
Well,
for all that you
I
do.
was in business for many, many years, and I had an interaction through business, and I'll say this to anybody who's watching that's in business. Business is challenging and it's tough. And I had an embezzlement case, and I was working with some police officers at a local agency, and so I had to write reports and do detail and timelines and all this detailed work. And they're like, one of the female police officers said, "You would be a great cop." And I was like, "Me?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh." And so I call that the nudge. I never in my life considered myself to be going, isn't that hilarious that as we're doing this, someone would call on the phone? We didn't even think of turning off that
didn't
phone.
even- I know.
And I bet you it's a telemarketer.
Probably.
Oh my goodness.
It's okay.
Should I go get it?
Yeah, just turn it. Yeah, just turn it off.
Hold on. I'll be
Excuse
right
us for a
back.
minute.
We'll
We're gonna
just-
take a little break here for just a few
edit
seconds.
this
It's perfect.
Was that a first?
Yeah, because we don't have any kind of phones like
We
that in
don't,
our
I don't
homes.
normally have, I mean,
Yeah.
that never rings.
How funny.
Okay, so what was I on?
She said you'd be a great cop.
Oh,
A
okay,
good cop.
okay. So there was a female officer that said to me, after looking at the reports and all that I was doing, that I would be a great cop. And so I was like, me? I've never even considered myself to be in law enforcement. And so it's a joke now, we all call it the nudge. And for women, oftentimes, you know, law enforcement is male dominated without a doubt. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but a lot of times women don't see themselves in that role.
Right.
And so as she said that to me, I started seeing myself in that role. And I started thinking about, And back then they had, in the court systems, they had marshals. And so you worked Monday through Friday. And I thought, well, maybe I could be a reserve or I could be a marshal and then I could still keep my business. So I put myself through Southwestern College Police Academy. And you could go, I believe it was Tuesday and Thursday nights, and you went all day Saturday. And I did that for like a year. And as I went through that whole process, I became more and more excited about being in law enforcement. And it changed from wanting to be reserve or a marshal to wanting to sell my business and get into law enforcement full time.
Wow.
So I,
Now, how old were you? About
well, my goodness gracious.
well,
really.
you're
I
pretty
went,
young.
No, not really young. I was 30.
That's
so-
young.
Well, not anymore. Not when I tell you, I'll add it up and know how old I am then. But so I applied it and was very successful. Got hired by Chula Vista Police Department.
Wow.
Started as an officer, and so I've worked my way up from every step. So I'm the first chief, internal chief. That means hired from within the department in 67 years.
Wow.
And so to me, I'm
wow.
really proud. I'm proud of the fact that I'm.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm proud of the fact that I'm the first female chief.
That's wonderful.
But I'm also proud that I'm the first internal chief because that gives
Yes.
to all those officers that I work with, they know that they could do the same thing. And if I could do it, they could do it. And so we make jokes.
That's wonderful.
Be careful who you're sitting next to and how you talk to them and how you treat people, because you never know, that person might one day be your boss. But it's been an absolute honor. It has been challenging though.
Yes.
So I'm going
I'm sure.
on, in December, it'll be 5 years as a chief of police.
Wow.
And actually, in reality, in the way the world is right now, it's really rare to make it to chief for 5 years. Most chiefs are only lasting for 2 to 3 years. So
Wow.
it's really, but like I said, I try to keep it focused and positive.
Yes.
Even though it's very, very challenging right now, this to me is a time to really highlight and showcase compassionate policing, to make sure that we understand when it's time to be
I
our
like
guardian
that.
and when it's
Yes.
time to be the warrior. And so
Yes.
sometimes you need an officer who is a warrior. And other times you need an officer that's going to be compassionate and help you through the challenges of your life. And so, and I'll tell you, recently I had to fight for law enforcement because we weren't getting vaccinated. So there was a lot of decisions made, and it was very frustrating when I saw that people were saying, which are all amazing positions, firefighters, lifeguards, EMTs, paramedics were all getting their vaccinations, but law enforcement had been pushed down to like the 5th phase. And so I felt like I had to stand up for law enforcement and say, do you not understand that law enforcement are first responders? They go
Yes.
into the scene before the paramedics or before
Exactly.
the firefighters.
Yeah.
And we often, we carry Narcan for drug overdoses that we administer. We carry tourniquets. We do CPR. And so it's been interesting to see the discussion about law enforcement right now. And I would never say to you that change is not necessary in law enforcement, because change is. We always have to be changing. We always
Sure.
have to be looking at a better way to do things. We always have to look at how we treat people, to
Yes.
put ourselves in the shoes of others.
Yes.
And that's a discussion that we have all the time in law enforcement. But right now, I encourage people in the community to stand up for law enforcement,
Yes.
because right now, law enforcement is truly, if they're not going to defund us, they're trying to devalue law enforcement, and that's concerning to me.
Yes, that is very concerning,
Yeah.
because we need that protection. It's,
Yes. Thank you.
otherwise
And
it
God
becomes
has,
chaos.
He has you exactly where
Yeah, He
He
does.
wants you.
Well, we will
Somebody-
chat one day because I'm like, can we have it a little easier for a little bit?
No kidding, no kidding. I
wow.
can't even
And
imagine.
just to be able to stand up and receive that calling upon your life in
Yeah.
such a powerful way is beautiful. And thank you for
Yes.
doing that.
Sometimes I guess I don't.
Yes.
And so I have to constantly tell myself
Yes.
that, because you can feel overwhelmed in any position in
Sure.
life. You can feel at
Yes.
times like, wow, when is it going to stop? And so for law enforcement, it's been, what is it now? 13, 14 months that we've gone through some significant.
Oh, I bet.
It's been more challenges than I've dealt with. I'm going on 29 years. So, but it's something worth fighting for.
Yes,
So that's the way I feel about
Absolutely.
it. And I tell my officers that we have an opportunity right now to shine the light on our organization.
Yes.
And what we do to show what all agencies should be like.
Yes.
And so, and
Yes.
it's how
be an
we,
example.
it's how we treat
Perfect.
people. And,
Right.
you know, I
Yes.
think you can even write a ticket or arrest someone in a very professional, dignified way.
Yes.
Of explaining why you write tickets in a certain area. There's a reason why I write tickets. It's not just to give a ticket. We're dealing with and focused on an issue and a problem or accidents or,
You're right.
you know, whatever the case is. And it's how you treat people. I've arrested people who have written me thank you notes.
Oh,
Because
wow.
you ask them questions.
Yes.
What has happened in your life that has gotten
So
you
you're trying to
into
help
the-
them, that's the
Yeah,
compassion.
and sometimes when you talk to people, you will hear, especially with our homeless outreach team, the stories that they hear and how they help and try to lift people up and get them off the streets and get them the services they need. It takes a long time to build a relationship
Yes.
to get
Yes.
someone willing to do that. So it's, I'm encouraged even through the challenges. I'm very encouraged, and I'm proud of my organization. I'm proud of all the people in my department. It's not just the sworn officers. We have 400 strong at our department, and they're all different.
So amazing.
Different positions that help people through the challenges of their lives.
It's
Thank
so
you.
wonderful to know that. You know, it gives you peace of mind.
Yes. Sure
And,
does.
We really do appreciate you guys a
Well,
lot.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I encourage people, you know, sometimes people provide signals or they wave their hand, but maybe with only one finger. Wouldn't it be nice to just wave to an officer and say thank you?
Thank you.
And just
we're praying
encourage
for
them.
you.
Yes.
I hear from my
Right?
officers, they tell me, Chief, when we were at lunch today, this group came up and they wanted to pray for us. They wanted to say thank you.
Jesus. Thank you.
And that
Aw.
impacts those officers, that helps them through all the challenges,
Gives them the
continue
courage,
on
yes.
to do what they're doing. And so I
Yes.
thank people who do things like that. It
beautiful.
means way more than you realize.
Yeah.
It really
Yes,
does.
I am so glad to hear that.
Wow.
I know this next question is, it's like, okay, with being busy at work, being the chief of police, if things were normal, how would you, I'm kind of like rewriting this question, how does that work with working with Project Compassion in the days when, right now it's kind of shut down a little bit because of COVID, but in the days when it was active, how did you balance the two? How did you?
Well, it's an evening process. So, you know, my schedule is very, you know, one day it could be light. The next day for work and my job, it could be a 14, 15-hour day.
Wow.
So it depends
wow.
upon what's happening in our community or what's happening on a national basis. But what I do is my weekends are, you know, my husband and I, and God did bless me in another area. He gave me the best husband in the world that is so supportive and right there helping me. So
Wonderful.
we have volunteers that will help us. We'll meet up at Project Compassion. Hopefully you've got to meet Annie, who's our
Yes, I
executive
love
director.
her. She's
So
a
if I didn't
sweetheart.
have Annie, and Annie, if you're watching, thank you for everything, because Annie is really the one that is the glue that keeps everything together,
Yeah,
without
she
a
keeps the
doubt.
communication
Without
going.
having an executive director like her, it would be very difficult for me to
Oh,
do
I
this.
bet.
So she really is the glue. And then we have a great board that all chip in and help. And so but for me, it's a lot of things remotely. We can do things. Now we're doing our meetings virtually, so we can do them
Oh,
in the
good.
evenings when we all get home from work. You know,
That's nice.
Al is our secretary of our board, and he's a doctor for
I
sure.
know. I've
So
gone
he's
on
very,
trips with him.
he's very busy as well. And
Yeah.
so, you know, we have Pastor Maddox who's
Right.
with us as well, and Harry Babb. And so everybody chips in however they can, and they've been really understanding of my schedule. So we've been doing things virtually and then meeting up at Project Compassion to do things. But it is challenging. I know that when I retire, my job will be to be even more involved with Project Compassion. We'll be having way more. And everyone asks me, when is that gonna be? I don't know. God hasn't told me yet when it's
Yeah.
gonna be. But I feel like, that I'm still providing a great service to the community.
Yes.
As well as a great service to Project Compassion. So
Yes.
we'll see what the future holds.
Well, it sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Are there any local things that you do here with Project Compassion?
Well, we do, we work with a lot of groups, like there's a group of young children that make blankets for us. And so we take those with us as well. But we've talked about, most of our trips have all been international.
Okay.
So we haven't done a lot of work because there's a lot of groups here in San Diego that, for instance, will go out and provide medical aid to the homeless, for
Yes,
instance.
okay.
But if I could get enough doctors that would be available and nurses that wanted to do it, I'm certainly open to those ideas, because helping within our own community is extremely important as
Sure.
well. And so it's really the coordination and trying to get people together. And we have discussed about the possibility of creating maybe 1 and 2 day events here in San Diego County, so that maybe we can introduce more people to Project Compassion. The hardest thing, though, because doctors have a very difficult time with getting time off, is finding doctors that can take the time off to go on a 2-week
it.
mission.
Right.
It's very challenging. So I always encourage people to reach out, to participate. Like when we go to Africa, we bring our own doctors that help us teach some of the doctors that are in
Right.
Africa. So their medical capabilities there are very different than they are in the United States.
Yes.
Sometimes it is hard for our own medical teams, because there's so many steps we have in the United States in terms of every little thing is
Right,
perfect.
right.
Nothing could ever be expired, you know. And in Africa, you know, doctors will come and they have whatever they can use there. So what I find is there's a relationship that's built, especially you've worked in the pharmacy
Yes.
with one of our pharmacists, DJ.
Oh,
We do a lot of teaching.
Yes.
We do a lot of teaching
Yes,
with them, and
I
a lot
love
of
it.
education is really important. So
Yes.
having teachers who, we have booklets that give you everything in teaching hygiene, and, you know, we go through a whole process, but it depends upon the group that we have at the time and their
Yeah.
skill set. So I'm always looking for more educators to be involved in helping us as well.
Yeah, I know for a time people were asking about, you know, when disasters come to the United States, like Samaritan's Purse goes out and stuff, but I was under the impression that Project Compassion couldn't do those kinds of things.
No, we can.
You
We
can?
just need to work on a strategy. So I know
Okay.
if something was to happen, and there's been floods and there's been different things that have
Right.
occurred, we certainly can do it. It's just the challenge is the logistics of having the medical teams that can leave their job. So sometimes
To
we
do
have
that,
to
okay.
coordinate with, for instance, Scripps Hospital and with Sharp Hospital, and we all work together. But a lot of times they have their own teams, so they don't
Okay.
necessarily want to work under the umbrella of
Of
Project
Project
Compassion.
Compassion.
So,
Okay.
so and that's why when we go on the international trips, the need is so great.
Yes.
And they're so willing to want us, and so we plan in the mission portion in the beginning, and then we always plan in at the end of our trip a rest and relaxation portion of it, and it's kind of the debrief and to kind of
Right.
invigorate, because it's emotional going
It's
on a
hard
mission.
coming back.
Yeah.
It's hard to assimilate back in to the United States.
Yes, and so we always have that portion in there. So when we go to the trip that you went on with us, we went to
Yes.
Malawi, and then we went to the Seychelles Islands afterwards. So
Yeah, that was
people
amazing.
were in really good moods when we got to the
Yes, they
Seychelles
were.
Islands, that's for certain.
Is that a resort area? I'm not
Oh, yeah,
familiar with
It
it's
is.
one of the
resort
most
area.
beautiful beaches in the world. I mean,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was
Oh.
gorgeous, and it was very relaxing. and
Tropical.
Tropical.
Just, it was beautiful.
Wow.
It's amazing, yeah.
That is
So you can see that we give you, especially like for somebody who it's not easy for them to get time off, you do get that amazing aspect of the mission work in service.
Yeah.
And then you do get a little rest and relaxation at the end, so then you also go back feeling refreshed when you go back into your job.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
is nice. That
Yeah.
sounds like a perfect combination.
Well, I've learned to be
Right?
quite the travel agent.
Your third job,
She's
right?
become a pro here.
I love it. Okay.
Sometimes we have up to, 35, 40 people, and
That's a
That
challenge.
is a
it can be a
lot.
lot of work, and that's where Annie comes in as well.
She's
Our executive
amazing.
director, really helping coordinate all that, and when you do it as a group, you get to experience sometimes trips that you would never have an
Yeah.
opportunity to do otherwise, because it would be far too costly. But when we do it as a group, we get
The
really good
discounts.
rates.
Yes, yes.
And we take care of everything is taken care of for you, which is nice.
I love that. I love that. What life skills have you gained in your position, and where has God played a role?
So are you speaking about in my position at Project Compassion or at my job?
I think both,
Yeah, let's
because
do
it
both.
intertwines,
Yes.
Oh, boy. Well,
the main ones that you see.
yeah, I believe that, and we've said this a couple times, that God takes you sometimes out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Yes. he does.
And I've seen him put me in different positions, and I'll just speak about the example of being in law enforcement. And it is a male-dominated environment, but for me, I grew up with 3 brothers, so I've been around men all my life. So
Right,
There you go.
I didn't necessarily find that challenging for me, but I did find it challenging for some of my male counterparts. And so it's pushed me out of my comfort zone and made me be much more strategic in everything that I do.
Okay.
And so I was never, throughout my career, I had times where some men had some difficulty with my style, because my style is completely different. And
yes.
and there's nothing wrong with, everybody has a different way about going things.
Exactly.
And so, I would have some people who didn't want to cover me on calls or wouldn't show up or whatever. And I never, well, I'm pretty feisty, I have to say that. So
Yes, she is.
it may not come across this way, but I would find ways to make certain that people that I knew that they had some challenges with me and my role in law enforcement, and I would find ways in a very professional, positive way to make sure that they encountered me as much as possible. And see, doesn't that sound positive?
That's
And-
very
Very
positive.
positive.
And, I'll just speak on behalf of one individual. He ended up working for me, but I didn't hold it over his head. But I did explain to him as time went on that I would expect you never to treat someone the way that you treated
Exactly.
me. I don't care if it's a man or a woman.
Right.
You don't treat people that way. And this individual said to me, well, I don't ever remember that. And I said, well, I do, because I experienced it, right? So, I would never have expected leading the entire organization.
Yes.
275 sworn. We have altogether with volunteers about 150. But I do believe God put you in positions because he pushed me out of my comfort zone.
Yes,
Okay?
exactly.
It was very easy to be number 2. I really enjoyed being number 2. To be number 1 is a completely different role.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it's hard to understand until you walk in someone else's shoes.
Sure.
Like I might have judged before other leaders and thought, what are they doing? They're probably not really doing that much, right? Then you get in the role and you realize the level of responsibility for your entire organization
Yes.
is immense. And I know for me that having God by my side is what helps me get through. When I get down, or when it gets really like overwhelming with all the stress, and there's social
Yes.
justice, racial tension, there's all these things going on right now. It can be, sometimes it can feel like a heavy weight on your shoulders, but knowing that I have God right there by me
Yes.
is what lifts me up through all of this. And I have people who come to my office, and our chaplain, and I have lists every day, pastors from my community in Chula Vista, they send me prayers every day.
Oh, that's so
And
wonderful.
so that, to me, and I have no problem speaking about my faith, because I don't push my faith upon others.
Right,
I
right.
speak about what it means to me. I wear a
Exactly.
cross around my neck because it means something to me.
Exactly.
And so, I just think, especially as we get older, and we were all joking earlier, saying our ages. You can hear my dog is really snoring loud.
It's her dog.
But as we get older, I think we reflect on things
Yes, we
differently.
do.
And my faith is so important to me, and I feel like right now, for whatever reason, faith is diminishing in our society, and it's concerning to me.
Yes.
And so I want people that want to talk to me about faith. I don't have a problem with it. So I don't know. I don't even know if I answered your question, Sandy.
You did. No, you
It's just,
did.
it's, to me right now is a critical time in our life. I feel like people right now, for whatever reason, God is not the center, and that's scary to me.
Yes.
But knowing that I have God surrounding me and providing my, those footsteps I'm following. So knowing that I have God helps me do what I do, even when I feel like everybody is, not everyone, but a large, or the loudest voices are negative towards law enforcement. So, I don't know. It's kind of deep.
It is a deep subject, but what I see out of it is you're like a beacon. The spotlight's on you because of who you are.
Yeah.
Whether it's Project Compassion, as a leader, as the president, and you've delegated. You have, as a police chief, okay? It's like you delegate, but you're the spotlight, because there has to be a leader. There has to be someone that has the ability to lead, but learn how to delegate, and to keep that community together.
You know what I equate it to this. I feel like I'm a parent. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm the parent. I'm the mother, the father of the police department. And I have a lot of officers who are like my kids.
Right.
And some of my kids need me to hold their hand. Some of them need sometimes a swat on the behind.
Right.
Or timeout. But you have to, you look at it like, when you look at people who have a parent, whether it's a single parent or you have two parent family, when you're focused in your kid's life,
Yeah.
they may go off the track a little bit,
Yeah.
but
Right.
you find a way to pull them back on.
Sure.
It's the same way in law enforcement and in society. When you have someone who influences you and is a leader and is helping guide you, and then going back and you have to double check, make sure that they're following the policies, following the rules, following the law, and treating people with dignity and respect.
Yes.
And
Everybody
so,
wants that,
I mean, I
yeah.
remember growing up, my parents, I mean, they had to set me straight many, many times. And
Yes.
if I didn't have my parents set me straight, I might have went down that wrong path and made
Exactly.
poor choices. And so, that's the way that I try to, I tell my officers I love them. I love them, I care about them, I want to make sure, but if they're doing something wrong, they know what my expectations are, and if they go off the path, then you will have to deal with the wrath of me. And sometimes that wrath of me means you no longer are in law enforcement, because there
Yeah.
are consequences.
Yeah.
Right.
And right now, consequences aren't always being addressed, and right now we're dealing with the effects of that. So it'll be interesting for us to look back 2 years,
Right.
in 2 years to look back and see, which path we take in society right now. But I do think it's an important time for everybody to come together. It's really,
Yes.
when I hear, and I say this, I don't talk about politics.
No.
I'm not about politics.
No,
I'm
me
about
either.
public safety.
Yeah.
Public safety is so important to me, and it means so much. It's more than just law enforcement.
Yes.
And so, right now, I think if people took that unifying message and we all came together and we celebrated our similarities, because we have way more in common than we don't.
That's true.
People
You're
don't.
right.
We need to hold up, we need to look at all that we have in common with each other, and really lift that up. And if we are off the wrong track in one area, then let's get back together. And
Exactly.
figure out what it
I
is.
agree.
I wish it was as easy as it sounds.
I know,
But it's,
I know.
but I am very, optimistic. We've been able to do many things in the, Chula Vista community. Chula Vista is an amazing, very diverse community that is, very connected. I'm very
wonderful.
lucky.
What a
I would
blessing.
not want to be a chief anywhere else.
What a
That's,
blessing.
there's a
That's
reason why
beautiful.
God put me there.
Right.
Oh, that is wonderful. Well, do you have some favorite scriptures?
Yes, I did bring it. One of mine is very, very long.
That's
but
okay.
I got a chance. This is when you can tell my age when you add everything up. Okay?
You just get one you wear all the time. that
Yeah,
way.
well, I probably
But I think
should.
the white hair kind of shows my age.
But I had an opportunity to go to Israel.
Oh, what a
And
blessing.
I was where Jesus spoke. And
Isn't that
so
awesome?
Matthew 5, 1 through 12 means so much to me. And there's another reason why in here, but
Okay.
it says, "And seeing the multitudes, he went up on a mountain, and when he was seated, his disciples came to him. Then he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you, and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you." And so to me, that encompasses everything about what I stand for in law enforcement and I stand for in Project Compassion. And I believe when I was up on that mount and I got to go see certain scriptures that were there, and I don't know, it just blessed
does something,
are the peacemakers. And when I was reading, because this is a study Bible, I was reading what it was talking about in here about peacemakers, and it said something here that I thought right now we needed more. It said the healers. The word translated peacemakers comes from a verb meaning to join together. It pictures two opposing forces that are now being reconciled. Peacemakers experience joy and excitement as they help others reconcile with God and with one another. And I thought,
Wow.
to me, it just touched me in my heart, because that is really what it is all about.
Yes.
Is even when two sides aren't together, that we should be reconciling and joining and looking at what is similar in us and how we can have a deeper understanding and have peace. And that isn't that what God wants for all of us?
Yes.
It's true.
And right now, I think I made a new commitment that every day I'm going to read that, Matthew 5, because it really, I don't know, it resonated with me, and it really made me,
Peacemaker. I love that.
you know, and I don't think
Wow.
that necessarily just means law enforcement, it means all of us.
Yes,
It means all of us
Every
right now.
aspect
Yes.
of our lives.
You know, and I think before when I heard that scripture, I looked at peacemaker for me in law enforcement.
right.
But when I really started thinking about it, peacemaker is all of us.
That's true.
And we can really truly come together right now. So that's my hope.
I love that. I love that scripture. Well, Shirley, are we about that at that point?
We're right there.
Yes, we
did it,
are.
girls.
We did it perfectly.
Just a chat at home.
I know, it's
Love
been
it.
wonderful,
Oh,
so.
thank you
thank
so
you.
much for joining us.
Yes.
Well,
thank
we
you for
bored little Rocky to death.
I know, Rocky
He
fell
is
asleep
Chief's over on the other chair asleep with
Yeah.
his tongue out, so it's the story of my
I
life.
guess our voices was like a lullaby.
Right? Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much
Well,
for
thank
joining
you both
us.
for being here. This was an
Yeah.
absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
I
it was a
appreciate
great
that you both are really trying to bring, we call it at our department, the heart behind the badge. It's all about the heart.
Wow.
And so you guys are trying to do that through your show now and share the heart. What are you saying, sharing our heart with you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yes.
sisters sharing our heart with you.
Yeah.
That
And
is-
you're
our
a sister
hearts-
to us too, so
Yes.
it's like, we're all sharing our heart in
Right.
some form
And
to
our
help
hearts,
people,
yes.
to make a difference.
Connected to Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, we are working
Yeah,
with his heart. We're trying to learn his heart to share with others.
because he loved all mankind.
Sure.
Certainly. That was my next one, John 3:16. but-
Okay,
Yeah.
read that for us, and we'll end it right there.
Okay. Well, it's very short and to the point, but I did have my study portion here. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. And this is what it says in the study Bible that I thought was
Okay.
important. This single verse tells more about God and his plans for this world than any other verse in the Bible. God gave the most extravagant thing he could do to demonstrate his love for lost humankind,
Yes.
summoning and sending his only begotten Son to pay the debt for sin. And I thought that was
That is
so
amazing.
powerful, so.
Beautiful.
That's a beautiful way to end this story.
Yes, I love
Thank
it.
you again,
Thank you.
Roxanna, so
Absolutely,
much.
my pleasure.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Yes,
you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.